Safari, the daily show where we look at a piece of design and try to become better designers. I just realized yesterday that we actually missed a show yesterday, or I missed a show yesterday. Sorry about that. Had friends here over the weekend and just completely lost track. Anyway, today we're going to be learning from Arcady at StubPal on X. He is a product designer at locals.org. And he posted this quite a while ago, and it's worth looking at. It's worth revisiting. Oh my God. This is, I think it's his final like daily design he did. He did one of these things, yeah, 366 days of design concepts, and this was the final one because he signed the contract with Locals. And I don't think this is my favorite one, but it is strikingly good. So let's dive into it. Well, get a feel for it first. How do you feel about it? I feel fucking amazing. This is great. This is really, really good. So how this works is I look at a piece and I break it down according to three parameters. What is good about this? What is bad about this? And does this work for the end user? So let's start with the good because there's a lot to say. Oh my God, the border radius or the border radii. I don't know what the plural is. Doesn't matter. They are freaking amazing here. The fact that they're so smoothly together and how they balance the outer one with the inner one, it's just exceptionally well balanced. This is also one of these hyper digital UIs. This really has no skeuomorphism in it. You could not possibly do this with a real UI or with a real material. This is something you can only really do digitally because it's layered in such a way that would make no sense, but it makes internally consistent sense in this design, which just makes it absolutely beautiful. All right, so another detail that we saw a little bit when I zoomed in on this is these outer borders are so incredibly subtle and just lightly shaded that you can sort of feel them, but you're not really seeing them, which is pretty much my absolute favorite concept from all design. The font is chosen really, really well. This looks like a notification widget or an app icon with specific information in it or something like that. Everything is a bit oversized, everything is very clear, and it's monospaced to make it even easier to read, even in a grid. And yeah, let's dive into these icons. So this box, the anniversary icons, is just absolutely amazing. The thing is like the icon itself is just an emoji, right? It's just an iOS emoji, but the background of it has been toned in I think it's two shades in this gradient to match not so much the color of the emoji as the vibe of the emoji. So it looks like it's a yellow one up here and like a purplish one down here. And it just feels fun and gives this ton of depth that you wouldn't really expect it to have. It almost looks like you're holding up a gray material to the icon and light is bouncing off the icon onto the surface. So it's a very cool like light scattering effect that just looks incredibly lovely, especially since this icon also has this lovely gradient drop shadow, which is just absolutely awesome. The exact same thing can be said about the top icon, which is the Locals logo. So I suspect this is also the Locals app icon, or it's his version of the Locals app icon. I don't care, it looks beautiful. Just a very simple gradient there, very distinctive typeface, outlined heavily in a chunky border. But the same drop down, the same like the gradient effect, I guess, is why this works so well because this gradient is weird, but it balances out so incredibly nicely because this one is also has a gradient. There's so much good stuff to say about this. So the padding over here is incredibly well balanced. So he chose a padding that is not exactly the distance to the gradient, but a little bit more, so that this extra rounded corner and gets a little bit more of a visual impact and gets to eat a little bit more of the surface of this, which is really cool. The padding is also completely different from what you have for the text, which is a very unusual choice, and it works perfectly in this case. Pretty sure that if you would blur this, so if I squint at it and blur at it, yeah, it feels like they're like centered in the box. I mean, that's not what they are, but it feels like they are visually centered or ocularly centered. Absolutely, absolutely beautifully done. I'm sure he pushed a lot of pixels, 1 pixel steps up and down, left and right to get that right. Same thing is true with this, the padding between the icon and the text. Also, very different from all the other paddings. In itself, it makes no sense, but taken together, it looks absolutely beautiful. This padding is also very close to what we have um, in line height. So it's great. All right, final card. The header, which is above everything else because it has a drop shadow down onto the cards. This is a calendar header with very classic UI and it just looks beautifully. It just looks beautiful. It captures the same gradient vibe we have. Gradient captures the same radii that we have down here, but it's more distinctive. It has even larger typography. I think the font is smaller down here. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it just looks bigger because it's on a white background. I'm not sure. It has the red in it to denote where you are in the calendar. I think originally that's a brown design that has just become a pattern now for everyone. Anyway, it's absolutely beautiful. And again, he's playing with the padding. The actual dates and days of the week have a completely different padding to the sides of the card than the October and events labels. The events labels also have completely different padding to the calendar than the calendar or the event labels have to anything else. So very, very interesting use of negative space to highlight what you're supposed to look at. It's very, very cool. And of course, the choices of colors, very interesting. The background is gray, and then there's a slightly darker gray on top of that, but this inner gray also has a yellowish tint, so it's becoming a warm gray. Whereas this, I think, is completely neutral. I think this is completely neutral as well, but then it's a little bit warmer as soon as it gets closer to the content and the icons, which have some warmth in them. Yeah, I can't say much else. That is absolutely beautiful. Well done, Arcady. So what's bad about this? Is there anything bad about this? There should always be something. Let's think about it. What can we learn to not do ourselves from this absolutely gorgeous design? I guess that if this was an actual production design, then having the content separated into a header and a body text could be very, very difficult to stick to because you only get so few characters in here. There's just not enough space for it. So I think that could be a serious problem with the design. Also, it would be, I was gonna say it would be much harder to get this effect going with the lightened, how do we even say this? Okay, so like the nouns and verbs, no, it's just the nouns. The nouns-ish have like a strikingly strong contrast. The rest of it, the text doesn't. I'm not sure you could do that easily if it was a real thing. Not sure it will be worth keeping around. Looks absolutely gorgeous though. What else? Yeah, these drop-down shadows are absolutely beautiful, but if this were actually a thing, I think it could be very difficult to find a situation where this type of height would work. because this itself is flat, so it would look very strange to just plop this down anywhere. Like I'm not saying that this design is bad in any sense. It's just that if it was in a context with other things that also have shadows, then it could become a clash. So it's not really a problem. I'm just identifying that it could be a problem, possibly. Um, I think that's it. This is beautiful. Well done, Arcady. Round of applause. So, the most important thing, would this work for the end user? I mean, it did, but I also think it totally would. Um, there could be changes if this was put into a different context, but I still think that this would totally work, especially as some sort of base design. And I mean, this is not what it's here for. This is a marketing design. He's exploring things and posting them online to see how people react. And we react absolutely beautifully. So well done, Arcady. This is a really, really good design. So much to learn from this, especially the super, super subtle bordering, which is amazing. And this like reflective gradient, which you can almost not see. It's really interesting. Definitely gonna take that away from me. Take that away from this design. Okay, cool. That's it. Armchair Safari daily. We try to learn from the best designs online. You can follow along. Have a good one. Bye bye.